The Empire called her Project Voss, but she had a name, Kira. No one used it anymore. For 12 years, she lived in a cold, metal room, deep underground, far from stars, sky, and freedom. The walls were smooth. The lights were always white. The air smelled like dust and metal. There were no windows, no clocks, no day, no night. She didn't scream anymore. She didn't cry. Because weapons don't cry. And to the Empire, she was not a person. Just a tool, a weapon, a power they could control. 3 times a week, they took her to the testing chamber. There, soldiers watched from behind glass. Machines attacked her. And every time, she defended herself, using the strange energy inside her. It was like fire, but colder, brighter. It came from her hands, her eyes, even her skin. She didn't know how she got this power. She only knew pain came with it. When she refused to fight, they shocked her. When she screamed, they said she was unstable. When she cried, they said she was broken. And slowly, she stopped doing all 3. But today was different. Today, they brought someone new into her cell. He was tall, human, dirty face, worn uniform. His hands were tied. His nose was bleeding. 2 guards threw him onto the floor, laughed, and left. The door closed. Silence. Kira sat in her corner, back against the wall. The man groaned, rolled onto his side, and looked at her. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He just looked. Not with fear, not with hate, but with confusion. "Are you real?" he asked quietly. Kira didn't answer. She hadn't spoken in months, maybe years. "They said this room held a demon," he said, wiping blood from his mouth. "Doesn't look like it." Still, she said nothing. He sat up slowly, wincing. "My name's Lane. Commander Lane Rial, Earth Defense Forces." He gave a weak smile. "Though I guess that title doesn't mean much anymore." He looked around the room. No bed, no food, just you and me. Great. He glanced back at her. "You're not going to kill me, are you?" he asked. Still no answer. He sighed. Maybe that's for the best. He leaned back against the opposite wall and closed his eyes. Kira watched him, quietly, carefully. He wasn't like the others. He didn't flinch when she moved. He didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't call her thing, mutant, or asset. He just looked, tired. An hour passed. Then 2. Finally, Lane spoke again. "They're using you, aren't they?" he asked without opening his eyes. "Same way they used my unit." She blinked. Her fingers curled slightly. "You're not a monster," he continued. "You're a prisoner, same as me." Kira's breath caught for a moment. No one had ever said that before. Lane opened one eye. "You know, back on Earth, they say some weapons can learn to choose." He chuckled softly. "Sounds stupid, right? A weapon with a heart." Kira turned her head toward him slowly. "Just a little. Just enough." He noticed. He smiled. "Guess it's not that stupid after all." The next morning, if it was morning, 3 guards entered. They dragged Lane out without a word. He didn't fight. But as they passed the door, he turned his head and whispered, "You're not what they say you are." Then he was gone. Kira sat alone. Same cold room, same white lights, but something was different now. Not outside, inside her. She remembered something. Not the pain, not the tests. A word. Her name. Kira. She whispered it. Soft, almost silent, but real. Her first word in years. Behind the mirror wall, the scientists watched the feed. One leaned toward another and said, "She spoke." The lead officer narrowed his eyes. "Interesting. Maybe the human is useful after all." He smiled. "Let's see what happens next." But no one noticed the lights in Kira's cell flicker. No one saw the soft blue glow rising in her hands. No one realized the weapon was waking up. For 2 days, Kira sat alone in her cold white room. But something had changed. Not the walls, not the guards. Her. Her fingers still glowed faint blue when she slept. Her thoughts felt louder than before. And now, she remembered her name. Kira. Not Project Voss. Not weapon. Just Kira. She didn't know why, but she thought about the human again. Lane. The way he looked at her. He didn't see power. He didn't see fear. He saw her like a person. On the 3rd day, the guards came again. But this time, they didn't bring weapons. They brought him. Lane. His lip was still bruised, his hands still bruised. But his eyes were sharp, alert. He smiled as soon as he saw her. "Hey, kid. Miss me?" Kira didn't speak, but she turned her head toward him. And for her, that was loud. The guards locked the door and walked out, leaving the two alone. Lane sat on the floor again, back against the wall. "They think I'm calming you down," he said. "They're watching us. Testing." He shrugged. "Let them watch." Kira stared at him. After a moment, she opened her mouth. Her voice was soft, dry, but it carried weight. "Why are you kind to me?" Lane's eyes widened. It was the first time she'd spoken to him. He leaned forward a little. "Because you've never been given a reason to believe in anyone. And because they're wrong about you." Kira blinked. "I've killed before." Lane nodded. "So have I. But they made you do it. I chose to defend my world. That's the difference." Kira looked down at her hands. The glow returned, blue and soft, not wild. "They say I was born in fire. In a lab. That I'm not real." Lane scoffed. "You feel pain. You think. You ask questions. Sounds real to me." She looked at him, truly looked for the first time. "I dream. Sometimes." Lane tilted his head. "What do you dream of?" She hesitated. "A sky. Not this sky. A better one. I'm flying. I'm free. I'm not afraid." Lane gave a small, sad smile. "That's not just a dream, Kira. That's a memory waiting to happen." The walls hissed. A vent opened. 2 guards walked in, this time with weapons. One of them nodded to Lane. "Your time's up. The scientists want her for another test." Kira's eyes widened. Lane stood fast. "She's not ready. She's tired. You'll." The butt of a rifle slammed into his stomach. He dropped to the floor with a grunt. Kira's hands started to glow brighter. "Stop," she whispered. But they didn't listen. One of them grabbed her arm roughly. "Back to the cage. Freak." And that was the moment. The glow exploded. The room filled with blue light. The air turned sharp. One of the guards was lifted off the ground, floating, choking. Lane reached out weakly. "Kira, don't. You're not like them." She turned to him. Her hands still glowed. Her eyes still burned. But her voice was calm. "I won't hurt you." She turned to the floating guard, lowered him gently, stepped back, and the glow vanished. The guard stared at her, shaking. One of them dropped his weapon and ran. The other stood frozen, eyes wide. Lane stood slowly. "You saved him." Kira looked at him. "Because you were watching. And I didn't want you to see me as they do." Lane stepped closer. "You're not what they see. You never were." Behind the mirror wall, the scientists were silent. One of them finally spoke. She held back. Another added. She showed control, emotion. The lead officer narrowed his eyes. "This human is changing her." Back in the room, Lane sat beside Kira. She whispered, "They think I'm their weapon." He nodded. "But I see something else." She turned her face to him. And for the first time she asked it. "What do you see?" Lane met her gaze. a soul. The days passed in silence, but it wasn't the same silence anymore. Inside her cell, Kira sat with her back against the wall. But now, she wasn't empty. She was thinking. She was feeling. And every time the door opened, her eyes would search for him. But Lane didn't come back. No visits, no voice, no smile. Just silence. Until the screams began. From far down the corridor, Kira heard shouts. Guards yelling. Sirens blaring. The lights flickered. She stood. Her breath quickened. Something was wrong. Then, a voice echoed over the speakers. All units to Sector 9. Subject Voss is unstable. Repeat. Unstable. Kira's chest tightened. That was her number. But she hadn't done anything. So who was in her chamber now? The cell door slid open fast. 4 guards rushed in. They didn't speak. They didn't ask. They just grabbed her and forced her to the floor. They dragged her through long, cold halls, down into the testing chambers. Huge steel walls, glass control rooms, bright lights, dozens of alien officers watching from above. She was pushed into the center. Chains clicked around her arms and ankles. She was back in the pit. Then she saw him. Lane, strapped to a metal chair, bruised, bleeding, weak. Kira's heart dropped. Lane, she shouted. His head lifted slowly, one eye swollen shut. But he smiled. Hey, Stargirl. The lead officer's voice boomed through the speakers. You've become too unstable. Subject Voss. The human influence has made you forget your purpose. Today we remind you. A large steel door opened on the other side of the arena. Out came a machine, huge, spider-like, armed with plasma blades and shielded by magnetic fields. Kira had fought these before. They were made to kill her if she disobeyed. But this time, she wasn't alone. This time, Lane was in the room. Fight it, the officer commanded. Destroy it, or he dies. The guards aimed a pulse cannon at Lane's head. His chair was wired with explosives. Kira's hands started to glow. Blue, fierce, wild. Her chains trembled, but she didn't move. She looked at Lane. I don't want to hurt anymore, she said softly. I don't want to be their weapon. Lane, through the pain, spoke calmly. Then don't be. You're not a weapon, Kira. You're a voice they tried to silence. Let them hear you roar. The guards shouted. The spider machine charged. Kira screamed, not in fear, but in refusal. The chains melted. The air cracked. Blue fire exploded from her skin. Not wild, not angry, controlled. The spider machine was lifted into the air, torn apart like paper. The blast wave hit the control rooms. Windows shattered. Systems failed. Kira walked forward slowly, glowing brighter with each step. She looked at the guards aiming at Lane. You will not touch him. Their weapons fried in their hands. They dropped them and ran. Kira reached Lane, burned the locks off his chair, and held him gently. He looked up at her, smiling weakly. So, not a weapon anymore. She smiled back. No, just me. Above them, the control room was in chaos. The lead officer slammed a red button. Evacuate the base. Subject Voss is out of control. But the system didn't respond. The screen blinked. A message appeared. You took her voice. She took your power. The lights died. Back in the chamber, alarms screamed. The walls cracked. Lane coughed. Kira, we have to go. She nodded. Hold on to me. He wrapped his arms around her, weak but trusting. She closed her eyes. I don't know if this will work. I believe you, he said. Kira focused her energy, not as a weapon, but as a way out. The glow surrounded them both, and in a flash of blue fire, they vanished. The light was blinding. For a moment, nothing existed. No pain, no chains, no empire, just blue fire and silence. Then, The light faded. Kira and Lane collapsed into soft soil. Real soil. Beneath their hands, grass. Above them, a sky filled with stars. Kira looked up, stunned. No white lights. No metal ceiling. No cameras. Just the sky. Open and real. "Where are we?" Lane whispered. Kira closed her eyes and listened to the wind. "Far from the Empire." "I didn't aim. I just wanted to be free." Lane laughed weakly. "You've got a good aim, then." They were on a moon. Small, quiet, hidden in a forgotten system. Kira had never seen real trees, or wild wind, or birds flying in the open air. She touched everything like it might vanish. Lane sat on a rock, his arm still bleeding. She walked over, glowing fingers out. "May I?" He nodded. She placed her hand on the wound. Blue light flowed gently. The bleeding stopped. The skin closed. He stared at her. "You're still full of power." She looked down. "But it listens to me now." That night, they found an old structure, half buried, long abandoned. Not imperial. Something older. Something peaceful. Inside, they lit a fire. Lane leaned back against a wall, exhausted. Kira sat beside him, quiet. "You saved me," she said. "Even when you were the one in chains." Lane looked at her, eyes soft. "You weren't the weapon. The real weapon was how they tried to make you forget who you were." Kira hugged her knees. "I don't even know who I am. I have no planet, no family, just this power." Lane shook his head slowly. "You're not just power. Your choice." Outside, a single drone floated through the stars, searching. The Empire had traced the energy burst from the escape. And now, they were coming. The next morning, Kira and Lane explored the ruins. She touched old carvings on the walls. Curved symbols. Soft light. "This isn't from the Empire," she said. "This place was built to protect, not destroy." Lane nodded. "Maybe that's why you landed here. Not because you aimed, but because something inside you still knows peace." Suddenly, a low beep echoed through the chamber. Lane turned. His wristband flickered. An old alert signal. "They found us." Kira stood quickly. "I'll fight." "No," Lane said. "We run." "Again, you're not ready." Kira shook her head. "They'll never stop. Not until they own me, or end me. But this time, they'll see I'm not theirs." From the hills, 2 Empire gunships approached, fast and armed. They fired warning shots. The ruins shook. Lane pulled out his old sidearm. Only 2 shots left. Not much, but it'll buy time. Kira stepped forward, glowing again, but this time the light wasn't fire. It was clear, soft, controlled. She raised her hand, and the ship stopped midair. Frozen. Lane stared in disbelief. "You're holding them." Kira gritted her teeth. "Not forever, just long enough. There's an old pod in the next chamber. Help me power it up." Lane ran. Kira held the ships with her mind. The pressure burned. Her nose bled. But she didn't stop. Inside the old chamber, Lane wiped off years of dust from the pod. "This thing is ancient, but maybe it'll fly." Kira stumbled in behind him, her hands trembling. "I bought us 2 minutes." Together, they wired the pod. Kira placed both hands on the engine core. "I can give it 1 jump. After that, it's all or nothing." The pod roared to life. Lane helped her inside. "Where do we go?" Kira closed her eyes. "To the edge of the stars. Somewhere they've never ruled." As the gunships broke free and fired, the pod vanished into hyperspace. The beam of energy it left behind lit up the sky like a comet. And then, silence. Back in the ruins, only scorched earth remained. One Empire soldier touched the crater and whispered, They're not hiding anymore. She's becoming something else. The pod landed with a hard thud. The ground beneath was soft, green, alive. Birds flew in wide skies. Strange trees glowed under two suns. Kira stepped out first, blinking at the light. It wasn't just peaceful. It felt familiar. Lane followed her, coughing slightly from the impact. "Where are we?" he asked. This moon wasn't on any maps. Kira stood still. Her fingers brushed a tree with glowing leaves. "I don't know," she said softly. "But something here remembers me." They walked through a field filled with soft grass and floating lights. In the distance, stone ruins stood tall, like towers carved by time. Kira's glow began to change. Her hands pulsed not blue, but gold. Lane noticed. "That's new." Kira didn't answer. She was walking faster now. Toward the ruins, toward the feeling. At the gate of the old city, a group stood waiting. Not soldiers, not empire. Locals. Tall beings with gentle eyes, robes of silver thread, and skin that shimmered under the twin suns. They did not bow. They did not fear. They smiled. "You've returned," one of them said calmly. "After all these years, the flame walks again." Kira froze. Her voice shook. "You know me." The elder stepped forward. "We knew you before the chains. Before the Empire stole your name. You were born here, Kira. You were one of us." Lane's eyes widened. "She's not a weapon. She's from this world." The elder nodded. She was light before they made her fire. They entered the ancient temple. Golden murals lined the walls. One showed a young girl with glowing eyes, floating above a river. Another showed that same girl standing between two empires, arms raised in peace. The final image showed the same girl falling, chained, taken. Kira touched the last one. "They took me when I was small. They erased this from me." Her hands trembled. "I thought I was made in a lab." The elder placed a hand on her shoulder. "They didn't create you. They feared you. Because you could balance power with heart." Later, around a fire, the truth came out. Kira wasn't just born here. She was part of an ancient bloodline, guardians of harmony, beings who could shape energy with emotion. Not rage, not control, but feeling. A lost gift, one the Empire hunted and erased. Lane listened quietly. "So, that's why they chained her. They were afraid she'd remind the galaxy what power should feel like." The elder nodded. She was hope, until they turned her into fear. That night, Kira sat alone under the stars. Lane joined her. "You okay?" She looked up at him. "I don't know who I am anymore. A weapon, a lost child, a symbol. It's too much." Lane gently sat beside her. "Forget all that. I know who you are. You're the girl who healed me without hate. The girl who held back her fire when she could have burned everything. You're not a weapon, Kira. You're the choice the galaxy forgot it had." Suddenly, the wind shifted. The skies above lit up with moving shadows. Empire ships. Dozens, maybe more. Lane stood, eyes scanning. "They found us." Kira stood slowly, but this time she wasn't afraid. "Then they'll hear the truth. This world remembers me. Now I will remind the stars." The villagers stood behind her. They handed her an old staff, a focus made of light crystal and memory. Kira held it. Her hands glowed white gold now. "I won't run anymore. Not from them. Not from myself." The sky was on fire. Empire ships broke through the clouds like black arrows, their engines roaring, their lights flashing like a storm of hate. But below, on the green moon that remembered peace, Kira stood still. No fear in her eyes. Only focus. Lane stood beside her, a rifle in hand, but he wasn't looking at the sky. He was looking at her. "You don't have to do this alone," he said. Kira's golden eyes glowed faintly. "I'm not. Not anymore." The villagers gathered behind them, silent, calm. They remembered her now, not as a weapon, but as a protector. The Empire, however, had no interest in remembering. They came to a race. Inside the lead Imperial command ship, General Viral stood tall. Target confirmed. Begin orbital sweep. Burn the ruins. Capture the asset. Kill the human. His officers nodded. No hesitation. No question. The galaxy feared Kira now, because she had chosen her own path. That made her dangerous. Too human. As the first wave of drop ships came down, Lane turned to her. They'll come with everything. Kira nodded. Then we give them something they've never seen. She stepped forward, holding the ancient crystal staff given to her by the villagers. Her hands pulsed with white fire now. Not wild, not violent, but steady, balanced. Lane felt it too, not heat, but truth. The ground shook, ships landed, soldiers poured out, dozens, then hundreds. Black armor, plasma rifles, drones flying above. Lane aimed his rifle. I've got your back. Kira didn't glow brighter. She grew calmer. She walked toward the soldiers with slow steps. The lead commander shouted, "Stand down. This moon is under Empire control. You err." His voice cracked. His armor vibrated. His weapon melted in his hands. Kira didn't even raise her voice. I am not your tool. I am not your fear. I am your mirror. The wind howled behind her. The sky had flashed gold. The soldiers hesitated. One dropped his weapon, then another. The others backed away slowly. But the Empire wouldn't stop with fear. They sent in their elites. Storm guards, bio-warriors, mind chalkers. Lane stepped in front of her. You saved me once, he said. Let me return the favor. He fired. 1, 2, 3 down. Then the sky lit up, enemy drones swarming. Kira turned, raised her hand, and the sky obeyed. Lightning, pure and white, danced across the clouds. Drones fell like sparks. The people watching from the hills whispered, "She's not a weapon. She's the balance they try to erase." Still, more kept coming. Lane was hit. A blast across his shoulder sent him flying into the mud. Kira screamed, not in rage, but in pain. She ran to him, dropping beside him. "Lane, stay with me." He smiled through blood. "Still here," he said weakly. "Still believing." Kira held him close, the white fire in her skin turning golden again. No more running, no more hiding. She turned toward the battlefield. You want fire. Then feel the flame, when it chooses. The final surge of energy from her body wasn't destruction. It was freedom. All weapons in the field stopped working. All minds twisted by Empire tech were cleared. All fear melted in the light. The soldiers fell to their knees, not from damage, from understanding. For a moment, the Empire itself paused. In the command ship, General Viral screamed, "Kilver, why are they not firing?" Fire. But no one obeyed. His own ship shut down. Every screen played one image. Kira, standing in white fire, holding Lane in her arms. And a message. This is the last warning. We are not yours. We are not prey. We are not weapons. We choose who we are. Back on the moon, Lane sat up slowly. The soldiers were retreating. Some stayed. Some dropped to their knees, not as enemies, but as witnesses. Kira stood, glowing softly. Her power fading gently, not lost, just shared. Lane looked at her with wide eyes. They came to break you. You made them listen. She nodded. Because you believed in me, when I didn't even believe in myself. The battle was over. The Empire had retreated. No more ships in the sky. No more weapons pointed at her. No more commands. No more chains. Kira stood on the hilltop, golden light fading from her skin. Her hands trembled, not from power. From peace. For the first time, she was truly free. Behind her, villagers tended to the wounded. Soldiers who had surrendered now helped rebuild what they had once come to destroy. Lane sat near the fire, arm wrapped in bandages. He smiled as Kira walked toward him. "Hey, Star Girl," he said softly. "You did it." Kira sat beside him. Her eyes were tired, but calm. "No," she said. "We did it." She looked at his bandaged shoulder. "I should have protected you better." Lane shook his head. "You didn't just protect me. You changed everything." That night, under the twin moons, the villagers gathered for the first time in years. They lit lanterns, sang songs of old. Stories returned, stories of Kira, the flame who once tried to bring peace before she was taken. Now she had returned, but she was not the same. She was stronger, wiser, and she had brought someone with her, someone the galaxy once called enemy, a human. And he was the one who saw her, not as a weapon, but as a soul. Days passed. The Empire sent no more fleets. Instead, a single drone arrived. No weapons, no tricks, just a message. Kira activated it. A projection of a woman appeared, an old Imperial advisor. Her voice was calm. "We were wrong. We built fear into our walls, and you shattered them without firing a single shot. What happens next is up to you." Lane looked at her. "That's a first. They're actually asking instead of taking." Kira turned the message off. She didn't smile. "That's not peace yet. That's fear pretending to be respect. But it's a start." One evening, Kira stood at the edge of a lake. The reflection of the stars shimmered in the water. Her own reflection stared back, calm, real, whole. Lane joined her. "So, what now?" She turned toward him. "Now, I choose. No more empire. No more titles. No more flames in cages." She turned back to the water. "I want to go to the broken worlds. The lost ones. The ones the Empire tried to erase. I want to help them heal." Lane grinned. "Sounds like you'll need a co-pilot." She raised an eyebrow. "Can you fly?" "No," he admitted. "But I can fix things, and I believe in the one who can." Together, they walked toward the ancient starboat buried in the hills. Villagers gathered around them, offering supplies, blessings, and quiet tears. As Kira climbed aboard, the oldest villager bowed low. "You carry more than light, child. You carry the memory of those who forgot how to choose." Kira placed a hand over her heart. "Then I'll help them remember." The engines hummed. The pod rose into the sky. Lane looked out the window. "Where to first?" Kira smiled. "Where no one's listening yet. That's where change begins." As the pod shot into the stars, systems lit up with life, but not Empire tech. Something older, stronger, and deeply hers. She wasn't just born with power. She was born with purpose. Now she could finally live it. Far behind, the Empire watched her signal vanish. And in command rooms across the galaxy, leaders whispered one name: Kira. Not Project Voss. Not the weapon. Kira. Because now, they knew. She was not fire to be used. She was not a force to be feared. She was not a tool. She was a choice, a soul, and a spark that made the stars feel new again.